All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. You ready to dive deep into some really powerful history?
Absolutely. Always up for a good history lesson, especially one that is, as impactful as the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, when people hear Underground Railroad, they might picture, I don't know, like secret tunnels and, I don't know, like a literal train running underground.
Right, like some elaborate hidden subway system or something.
Exactly. But as I'm sure many of our listeners already know, it wasn't like that at all. So for this deep dive, let's uncover what the Underground Railroad really was, how it actually worked.
And I think, more importantly, we should explore the human stories behind it, the incredible courage and resilience of those who escaped slavery and those who risked everything to help them.
Yeah, that's what's really going to bring this to life. Okay, so let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
What exactly was the Underground Railroad?
It was a network, a secret, loosely organized system of routes and safe houses used by enslaved people to escape to freedom in the North, and often all the way to Canada.
Okay, and this was happening in the 1800s, right? Leading up to the Civil War.
Exactly. From the late 1700s all the way through the 1860s. And it's estimated that tens of thousands of people escaped slavery using this network.
Wow. That's incredible. So who were the people involved? I mean, besides the enslaved people themselves.
Well, there were the conductors, as they were called. These were the brave individuals, both black and white, who guided the escaping slaves along the routes.
So they were like guides, leading them from one safe place to the next.
Yeah, exactly. They provided food, shelter, directions, sometimes even disguises.
And I imagine they had to be incredibly careful with slave catchers and all.
Oh, absolutely. It was incredibly dangerous work. There were laws like the Fugitive Slave Act that made it illegal to help enslaved people escape, and there were rewards offered for capturing them.
Man, can you imagine the pressure? Knowing that one wrong move could mean not just your freedom, but the freedom of the people you're trying to help.
It was a constant risk. But the conductors, they were driven by a sense of justice, a belief that all people deserve to be free.
Now, when we talk about conductors, the first name that comes to mind is, of course, Harriet Tubman. She's like the icon of the Underground Railroad, right?
Yeah, she's definitely one of the most famous figures, and for good reason. She made about 13 documented trips back into slave territory, guiding hundreds of people to freedom.
13 trips. She wasn't afraid to risk her own life to save others.
Not at all. And she was incredibly clever about it, too, using disguises, traveling by night, even communicating with coded songs.
It's really hard to fathom the kind of bravery and commitment she had. But she wasn't the only one, right? There were so many other heroes of the Underground Railroad.
Oh, absolutely. Countless individuals, both black and white, risked their lives and livelihoods to help. Places like the Havre de Grace Underground Railroad Museum in Maryland, for example, highlight the stories of everyday people who stepped up to make a difference.
Okay, that's so cool. Like, it really brings it down to a personal level, You can see how ordinary people became heroes in this fight against slavery. And speaking of places, are there other locations where listeners can sort of connect with this history firsthand?
Definitely. There are quite a few memorials and historical sites dedicated to the Underground Railroad. The National Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Cincinnati is a great one. It's got interactive exhibits, personal accounts, and a ton of information about this important history.
Wow, so it's not just about looking at artifacts. You can really, immerse yourself in the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the Harriet Tubman Byway in Maryland. It's a series of marked sites that follow the paths she used on her rescue missions. You can literally trace her footsteps and see the places where she helped people escape to freedom.
That sounds amazing, like a real-life journey through history. And it's not just Tubman, right? There are memorials dedicated to other figures who played vital roles in the Underground Railroad.
Absolutely. Like the Frederick Douglass National Historic Site in Washington, D.C., for instance. Douglass was a formerly enslaved person who became a prominent abolitionist and writer. His home in D.C. is now a museum where you can learn about his life and work.
So we've got all these incredible stories, these brave individuals, these historic sites. It's all connected to this larger story of the Underground Railroad. What do you think is the biggest takeaway for people today? Why does this history still matter?
I think the Underground Railroad shows us the power of collective action, the importance of fighting for justice, even when it seems impossible. These ordinary people, they came together, they risked everything, they challenged a system that seemed unbreakable, and they made a real difference.
Right, like it wasn't just about escaping, it was about actively resisting a system of oppression.
Exactly. And that's a message that is just as relevant today as it was back then.
So the Underground Railroad wasn't about physical tunnels or trains, but about a network of courageous people working together to achieve something truly remarkable.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and resistance can thrive. And it challenges us to ask ourselves, what can we do to continue the fight for justice and equality in our own time?
That's a powerful question, and I think that's a great place to leave our listeners with that thought. What can we learn from the Underground Railroad and apply it to the challenges we face in the world today? What can we do to be a part of the ongoing struggle for freedom and human dignity?
Let's keep that conversation going, because the fight for justice is far from over.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the Underground Railroad. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep fighting for a better world.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.